because it's like, yeah, the mask off, lock the door, Vic.
A fan gives Lil Durk a rug of King Von.
Rug will beat your ass on the phone. Who did that? Rug, yeah.
The rug boy.
Yeah, he made us one.
I'm gonna get you, the rug
He
boy.
showed up with
that incident, which was very unfortunate at the end of the day. You know what I mean? It's changed everybody's lives irreparably.
Yeah, that shit fucked everybody up. Like when a real gangster, you know what I mean? When a real gangster get took out by like a nerd type.
Obviously, more people love Juan, but you know, in that situation, which was a street situation,
it's a real situation. Like,
but I think people think that anybody would have done the same thing.
So Lil Durk just sat down with DJ Academics for an off-the-record interview, and of course, your boy's name got brought up. Academics actually asked Lil Durk what he thought of these rumors that King Von is a serial killer.
What do you think about that? So this was some documentary that came out, but I think people have kind of like floated the ideas, and they're saying that Von was a serial killer, and for some people, they're looking at it to say, well, man, this guy is maybe the most quote-unquote gangster rapper we've ever seen because he actually may have done everything he said. And then some people are saying, well, whoa, is this supposed to be how rap is?
Kinda downplaying the fact that Aka's called King Von a serial killer numerous times before my documentary dropped. But anyway, according to Lil Durk, my documentary is all cap.
Honestly, I ain't watched the documentary because I know it's cap.
But you didn't even watch it. So how are you gonna know it's all cap? If you didn't watch it, Durk, maybe give it a watch.
What's your name?
Williams.
Where you staying?
6425 South L.
Who are you doing in this car, man? Who are you with?
Go my uncle.
Is that your uncle? What's his name?
Nobody was supposed to hear this audio again. Nobody was supposed to replay these clips. And definitely nobody expected them to resurface right when everything around Lil Durk was already boiling over. Because once you hear what's said in that footage, it doesn't just reopen old wounds, it forces people to question whether the entire story we've been told for years was ever complete. And the craziest part? This didn't leak by accident. This footage came back at a moment when it could cause the most damage. And that timing alone tells you everything. But to understand why this resurfacing hit so hard, you have to rewind to the night that quietly changed the direction of modern drill culture forever. That night started like any other industry link-up. Atlanta. Early morning hours, outside a popular hookah lounge, music, chains, entourages, my egos, all colliding in the same space. Around 2 a.m., two groups crossed paths. What looked like a random encounter turned into chaos in seconds. Shouting, movement, someone stepping forward when they probably shouldn't have. And then everything exploded. Shots rang out in every direction. People scattered. Off-duty officers nearby jumped in. And within moments, multiple people were hit. By the time the smoke cleared, 6 people had been shot. 2 didn't make it home. One of them was King Von. And from that moment on, nothing in Chicago rap, or the culture surrounding it, would ever feel the same. But the night itself was only the beginning, because years later, a different voice entered the conversation. In an interview that was never meant to circulate the way it did, Hayin, the man at the center of the storm, calmly broke down what happened from his point of view. He described pulling out the weapon, he described squeezing off 4 shots, and then he said something that made everyone pause. The gun jammed. Not during the moment people assumed, not at the end like some thought, but right in the middle, changing the entire rhythm of what unfolded next. Then came another revelation. He got hit too, multiple times, hip bone, lower body. In the chaos that followed, bullets were flying from all directions. Officers were firing, people were scrambling, and nothing was clean or controlled anymore. That version of events didn't excuse anything, but it complicated everything. And that's exactly why this footage resurfacing now feels so intentional, because it forces people to re-examine the night with fresh eyes. And not everyone wants that. Before that night, King Von wasn't just another rapper on the come-up. He was a storyteller who pulled listeners straight into the reality he lived. Born and raised in Chicago's O Block, Von didn't rap about fantasies. His lyrics felt raw because they were rooted in experience. That authenticity made him impossible to ignore. And more importantly, he wasn't walking alone. Lil Durk wasn't just his label head, he was his brother, his protector, his biggest believer. Von's debut album had just cracked the Billboard charts. His name was buzzing everywhere. For many fans, it felt like he was only getting started, but his past never disappeared. Federal documents would later connect him to violent allegations that painted a much darker picture behind the music. To some listeners, his lyrics sounded less like stories and more like open confessions hidden in plain sight. And that dual identity, rising star and street soldier, is what made his loss hit so hard, because it felt unfinished. On the other side of the conflict was Quando Rondo and his circle. Different city, different background, same pressure. Tension between the two camps had been simmering online long before Atlanta. Subliminals, dissies, energy that didn't need words anymore. So when both crews crossed paths that night, it wasn't just coincidence. It was a spark waiting to catch fire. And once that fire ignited, it spread far beyond that parking lot. Years later, body cam footage from responding officers quietly made its way online. No dramatic angles, no clear faces, just darkness, flashing lights, raised voices, and confusion. But people filled in the gaps anyway. Accounts on social media began pushing the clips hard, millions of views, thousands of comments, captions implying deeper connections and hidden motives. To some, the footage was proof. To others, it was propaganda. But one thing was clear, people weren't sharing it just to inform. They were sending a message. To understand why those clips keep getting reposted, you have to understand Lil Durk beyond the charts. Lil Durk grew up in Chicago's Inglewood neighborhood, surrounded by instability before he could even speak. His father was locked up when Lil Durk was still an infant. His mother carried the weight alone. Success didn't come easy, and when it finally did, it didn't come clean. Over the years, Lil Durk lost his cousin, his manager, his brother, and then King Von. And watching someone you love lose their life on camera hits different, even if you've been surrounded by loss your entire life. Another Chicago rapper, G Herbo, later admitted that seeing the footage broke something in him, and he's someone who had already grown numb to death. That reaction matters, because it explains the rage that followed. Legally, the system came to its own conclusion. The shooter was charged, bond was posted, and eventually the case was dropped under Georgia's Stand Your Ground law. To the courts, it was self-defense, but the streets don't operate on court rulings. In that world, balance still felt off. And when balance feels off, people believe it has to be restored. Nearly 2 years later, that belief would lead to another night of gunfire. Los Angeles, a gas station. The masked figures stepping out of a vehicle and unloading rounds into a car believed to be carrying Quando Rondo. But fate intervened again. Quando survived. His cousin didn't. Surveillance footage flooded the internet. Freeze frames, slow motion, narratives forming before facts. And this time, the consequences didn't stop at social media. Federal investigators stepped in. And once they did, everything changed. Prosecutors alleged that this wasn't random retaliation, but an organized effort. Flights paid for, hotels booked, weapons supplied, and at the center of it all, they claimed, was Lil Durk. In late 2024, Lil Durk was arrested on federal conspiracy charges tied to the shooting. The same man who once represented Chicago resilience was suddenly facing the possibility of life behind bars. The timing couldn't have been worse. He had just reached the peak of his career. Grammy wins, #1 albums, mainstream respect, and overnight, all of it was overshadowed by indictments and court dates. What makes the situation even darker is how evidence works in cases like this. Lyrics, social media posts, affiliates' actions, even old interviews. Everything becomes material. Former defense attorneys have explained how quickly prosecutors lean into gang enhancement strategies. Once they convince a judge there's an organized group involved, the rules loosen. That means things that would normally never see a courtroom suddenly matter. And in the digital age, there's no shortage of material. Meanwhile, the footage keeps circulating. Old clips, new uploads, reposted body cam angles, interviews clipped out of context. For some people, it's clout. For others, it's loyalty. And for a few, it's psychological warfare. Every repost reopens wounds. Every comment section turns into a battlefield. And young viewers are watching all of it unfold in real time. There's a moment where someone has to ask the uncomfortable question. At what point does documenting trauma turn into glorifying it? Because when artists like King Von came up, They didn't have years of distance from the streets. He had only tasted success for a short time before everything ended. As G Herbo explained, you don't just switch off survival instincts overnight. When that mindset is burned into you from childhood, reacting becomes second nature. And sometimes, reaction costs everything. As of now, Lil Durk remains locked up, facing a trial that keeps getting pushed back due to the sheer volume of evidence. Tens of thousands of pages, wiretaps, financial records, civil lawsuits have followed, support around him has reportedly thinned. Only a few familiar faces still show up consistently. Isolation is part of the punishment long before any verdict is read. So when people ask why this footage keeps resurfacing, the answer isn't simple. It's grief, it's anger, it's unfinished business. And it's a culture caught between telling stories and becoming evidence. The cameras aren't turning off, the uploads aren't stopping, and the consequences are only getting heavier. As the clock ticks toward the next court date, one thing is clear: this story isn't over. And the footage everyone keeps reposting isn't just content, it's a reminder of how fast success, loyalty, and trauma can collide, and how hard it is to escape once they do. What happens next won't just decide one man's future. It'll echo through the culture for years to come, and whether people learn from it or repeat it, that part is still unwritten.